All right, let's kick off the conversations today with trade facilitation. We know Nigeria Customs they play a critical role, not just in revenue collection, but also in shaping Nigeria's trade competitiveness. With the AfCFTA implementation and Nigeria's push for non-oil revenue, Customs is at the center of the conversation on trade, security, industrial growth. Joining us now to explore this, we have Aliyu Maiwada, is the Assistant Controller of Customs, joining me right there in Abuja. Great to have you on the show. Good morning.
Good morning.
Fantastic to have you. So, most of the time we see the data, coming out from the Customs Service. We see the revenue for 2024, about 6.1 trillion naira. We see export trade, 136.65 trillion naira. Customs revenue, Q1 2025, I think about 1.3 trillion. So we're seeing, the revenue there growing, and definitely that's, I believe that's fantastic work. Getting all this kind of revenue, from the your operations, at the borders, and helping the federal government, get some revenue out there. But talk to me about how the custom is working to cut clearance times, because we know there's still difficulties when it comes to the import export business. Most of the time when you hear some individuals trying to get into this business, the first thing they're afraid of is they don't want to deal with the border issues and all of that. Talk to me about what you're seeing so far.
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity. Let me start by saying Customs, I have stated on this platform, and I will repeat it again, Customs is sitting on a tripod. I can see the camera facing me is sitting on 3 tripods. And if you remove one of the legs, that tripod will not stand, which means our revenue collection is very critical to the nation. Our role as trade facilitators is also very critical and very important. And finally, our ability to suppress smuggling to the barest minimum is also very critical and important to the nation. So we are doing those, they are interwoven, and their relationship, if you try to paralyze any of them, then the whole system will also feel the impact of that inability. We are dwelling on the issue of making business more competitive, the issue of trade facilitation. We believe customs have a critical role to play in terms of trade facilitation. You can align, if you look at the WTO trade facilitation agreement, there are so many practical issues that customs administration need to adhere to. If you look at Article 1 to Article 13, most of the issues relating to trade facilitation are things that should be implemented by customs administration. Now, to domesticate this conversation to Nigeria, as a customs administration, the coming of the Nigeria Customs Service Act 2023 is a game changer to the Nigeria Customs Service. In our old law, where there was no existence of this kind of tools, trade facilitation tools that are backed up by legal framework. Now we have a customs administration that has a legal framework that backs the issue of advance ruling. And we have started advance ruling in Nigeria Customs Service. It's a trade facilitation tool. And advance ruling is simply a legally binding decision on classification, valuation of goods prior to importation of those goods. And it's legally binding, which means by the time you bring in those items, before you even make an intention to import those items, there will be a binding decision on classification and customs value of those items, which will also aid the facilitation of clearance of your cargo. Recently, we have also launched the Authorized Economic Operator Program. It is also a trade facilitation tool that you fast-track the clearance of goods for people that you are perceived to be very compliant based on certain criteria you have put in place. So we have launched EO, AEO, and those are efforts we are making to make sure that we facilitate trade. Then on the other hand, we have also launched a time release studies in Tinkan Island Port. What is time release studies? It's also a trade facilitation tool to look at the time required for you to the arrival of goods to the exit of those goods out of the port in question. Now, That time release will give you an idea who is causing delay at when and where. And with that scientific evidence that is scientific and is backed by data, you will be able to know where are the problems and you will improve in your trade facilitation tool. Then, for you to make trade very competitive, there must be, you have to cut the red tape. And your ability to cut the red tape defines by your own processes and procedures. The use of IT, the use of technology. If, for instance, the Customs Administration of Nigeria use 100% physical examination to clear the consignment coming into Nigeria, then there won't be trade facilitation. If customs is intentional about non-intrusive inspection technology, that is the use of scanners, then there will be effort to make sure that trade will be facilitated.
Okay.
So we have a modernization project that is 20 years concession agreement, and we have started the process of end-to-end automation of processes and procedures of Nigeria Customs Service. We have some scanners that have come into the country. We have gantry scanners that will be installed in Apapa. We have mobile scanners that will be installed in Tinkan Island Port. In our cargo ports, we have installed in Sakol and Nauko at Murtala Mohammed Airport. 6 have come into the country, and we will have more that will be coming.
Okay.
Apart from other issues we are using to facilitate trade.
Well, with what you've said so far, you guys have been very, very busy, but, still looking at the revenue generation side of things, you did explain that, you guys stand on a tripod of, responsibilities at this time. But, looking at the, mega revenue you guys keep raising, from 2024 even into 2025 already, definitely that's a plus, for federal government revenue. But in your opinion, do you think there's a risk that you might now concentrate more on revenue generation and, other parts fail?
Let me be very critical about your question. We are not concentrating on anyone. We concentrate on both of them. We are not giving, for instance, if you decide to say, no, I will not facilitate trade, it will affect your revenue collection. This is an analogy I usually give so that everybody will understand. If today an importer is defined to make an importation cycle 3 times or 4 times in a year, every quarter. And each time that importer imports that item, you collect a revenue of, let's say, 1 billion naira. Now, in a year, you are going to collect 4 billion naira as revenue. So, but if you have red tapes, you have stumbling blocks that are inimical to that trade facilitation, and that person was unable to import 4 times, and that person imported 2 times, because of the delays you have caused in the port, it will also affect your revenue. Which means instead of collecting 4 billion as revenue, you end up collecting 2 billion. So that is the simple analogy that when you jettison any aspect of our core functions, it will affect. It's just a system. And it's just like your body. If you are having issue with your teeth, you will be very uncomfortable throughout. You will not be able to perform other functions because that teeth is part of the system called your body. So whenever, and if you like to say, no, let's jettison anti-smuggling activities, allow smuggling to take place, then now instead of people to come in through the approved channels and pay customs duty, you will end up following unapproved routes, and you won't be able to see the revenue to collect. Then that won't be controlled. So we are very, very intentional about balancing those 3 core responsibilities in whatever we do, and we don't jettison any one of them.
All right, let's look at some, when it comes to port dwell and clearance times at this point. You did mention, some of the improvements, that you've been making so far. But according to data from ResearchGate, we're seeing Nigerian ports, they're estimated to be 475% higher than the global benchmark. Say compared to the Tema port, then Nigeria's dwell time is about 53% higher. And this is data, coming from, I think, about 2023, 2024. What would you say, how would you describe the dwell time, right now? Have you seen any improvements, in your opinion?
Well, to be sincere, I would say yes, there is substantial improvement in our ports corridor, but there's still room for improvement. The gridlock you usually see in Apapa, Tinkan, today you can use your vehicle to access the ports. It's a product of deliberate intention by the government to make sure that our port corridors are a little bit more accessible. Those are issues relating to trade facilitation. Now, issues relating to terminal operators have a role to play in making sure that the ports are effective. Shipping lines have a role to play. The regulatory agencies like MPA also have a critical role to play. So I believe if all the apparatus of government as well as the private sector come together to see how our ports can be more effective and can be improved, then we'll get better. But I think we are doing very well in our port. The volume of trade we usually manage in our port is something very, very humongous. It's something very big. And without that technical know-how, without ability, you won't be able to manage those quantum of trade within our port corridors. There is room for improvement, but I think we are doing better.
All right, let's look at leakages now. What reforms are being, introduced, to plug some of the leakages at, borders and ports? And do you think the reforms are working?
Yes, as the issue of reforms are ongoing. Very soon we are going to announce a major reform that is a product of we render service to Nigerians and we receive feedbacks on our operations and we look inward and improve in our operations. Very soon we are going to launch the one-stop shop, and one-stop shop it's an effort to make sure that we harmonize our operations. All sub-units within the service will be domiciled within that one-stop shop. If you have any intelligence, if it's customs intelligence or whatever, you will drop that intelligence within that one-stop shop, so that whenever consignments are going out of the port, nobody have reason to intervene or to cause unnecessary delays. Those are efforts of reforms. And as I mentioned earlier, the issue of technology. We have launched, for the first time in Nigeria, Customs Service, we are launching our own indigenous clearance platform called Bodogu. And that Bodogu is a unified customs management system that we started from scratch. We built that system, and today that is what we use for clearance of goods. There were glitches along the way, but we are receiving feedback from members of the public. We are improving, we are making our system more robust through the use of IT infrastructure. We are looking at issue of diversion of cargo. We are coming up with an electronic cargo tracking system, part of our effort to modernize what we are doing. And with that, we'll be able to make sure that goods consignment leaving the mother port to terminals do not get diverted along the way. That is part of reforms what we are doing. We have also regularized our anti-smuggling strategy so that you won't be seeing customs everywhere. That is what I've mentioned, the issue of one-stop shop. So those are things we are doing a reform.
Right.
Now, I want to talk about post-clearance audits.
Okay, you did mention the Bodogu initiative, and you said, I think you did allude to some issues, with the platform. Have those issues been resolved?
It's a system that is robust. Today, if there are complaints, we have 24 hours help desks that listen to members of the public, importers. We attend to problems. It's a new system. You have to make sure that people understand how that systems work. They are used to our legacy, our platform, Nigeria Integrated Custom Information System 2, NICIS. And we have a new system that comes with also some different features. So what we are doing now is to make sure that we optimize our stakeholders' engagement. We listen to our stakeholders. We have held a very robust stakeholders' engagement in Lagos. We are going to have one next month in Port Harcourt for the eastern ports. And we are listening to members of the public about any complaint. Where we need to improve, we improve on the system. Where we need to explain, we explain. Where we need to train, we train. Where we need to expand our network, we expand the network. So Bodogu is working. Yes, there will be problems, but these problems will be surmounted. It is our own. It is something we develop indigenously. The source code starts from here, and it is our own. So we have to allow our own to grow, and we must rely on our own.
All right, definitely we'll keep tracking progress there. But I would like to get your what you've noticed, when it comes to exports and imports. Have you noticed any trend, interesting trends on the export side of things? Leaving Nigeria, are you seeing, huge demand for our exports in, some segments? Are you seeing our exporters actually doing well, when it comes to sending some of their products out? What are you noticing?
Well, export also have its own value chain. As customs, we also have a role to play in line with the value chain of those who are responsible to make sure that export is improved. We have other agencies that are also responsible. What we have done in Nigeria Customs Service is to create a dedicated command for export. We have a Lily Pond Export Command, and prior to that, when items get to mother port, they get inspected again. But now, the seal is being granted by that export command. Everything is done at that export command. And based on the data available to me, I cannot recall the figures, but it's something that it's already available online. The review of the activities of export command in the first half of 2025. There is substantial improvement in the nature of the quantum of good and the value of good, that is free on-board value of those items that have been exported outside the country. However, there are other aspects of export which may not fall within the purview of the Nigeria Customs Service, but I believe some of the items that we export, some of them are raw materials, and we are looking forward to see how we can improve in exporting finished items that value has been added to those items, majorly using issues such as preferential trade agreements such as the African Continental Free Trade Area, the issue of the ETLS, ECOWAS Trade Liberalization Scheme, and so on, regional and continental integration that we can use to make sure that our finished product, gets out of Nigeria. We can see that from one of our beneficiaries of AUO, is a company that produces some certain items. They have also export some items under the Guided Trade Initiative under African Continental Free Trade Area to some Eastern Africa. So we believe there's room for improvement. But however, as customs administration, we believe export is very critical, is very integral to the success or to building a better economy in Nigeria. And we are doing everything possible to make sure that it works.
Fantastic. Hopefully we get more finished goods out of the country and get all of that important forex. Thank you so much. Mr. Aliyu Mewada is Assistant Comptroller of Customs. Thank you so much for coming on the show this morning.
Thank you for your time, but I would like to add that we are going to host the African Continental Free Area Conference in Nigeria in November. And part of the effort is custom to intersect between so many components of AfCFTA to dissect the problems relating to AfCFTA and see how AfCFTA will work. So we believe we are taking a leading role because the Comptroller General of Customs is chairman of the World Customs Organization Council. So he's using that seat to make sure that AfCFTA works for us.
Fantastic. Let Africa trade with Africa. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.